Well, the news came before tip that Ivica Zubac, hey, I think I finally said his name right, would not be able to go for the Clippers. It seemed to be a notification that would seal the fate for Los Angeles, that Phoenix would be able to score at will on the interior. But on a Monday night in downtown Phoenix, with a ticket to the NBA Finals on the line, that narrative would not be the case. The Clippers would dominate the paint, outscoring Phoenix 58-32. They would negate all of our runs, and behind the likes of Marcus Morris and DeMarcus Cousins, plus a playoff career high from Paul George, they would force the series to change locations once again. Beat LA? Not yet, Matthew. Not yet.
Yeah, I'm about to throw up right now.
Yeah. Did you eat something wrong, or was it just the game in totality?
No, it was, there's a moment there when Chris Paul hit that to go up by 1, and I was like, wow, this is it. And it wasn't. So it's a weird feeling right now, man.
Weird feeling, Saul? Are you feeling weird?
I feel like crap. Like, I just, again, like, if you don't have anything positive to say, sometimes it's just better to just close your mouth. So we'll just get to the points, and then we'll get through this, because I'm just I think there was way too many things that I could point out tonight that just at least just leaves you salty.
Ooh, salty. Yeah, I concur with that. Espo, how are you feeling? He's drinking. He's already drinking.
Oh, God.
I have a familiar feeling, and that's not necessarily a good thing in Phoenix. So, I felt a little uncomfortable with how excited some media members were getting and other people were getting this afternoon. And it's that hello darkness, my old friend. It's feeling a little too normal right now here in Phoenix, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, this is a feeling that, to many of you who are new to the fan base, who have decided to join along for the ride, welcome to the world of tempered expectations. When everything feels like it should be going your way, when everything says on paper that you should win, fate always has another way of showing us the dark side of the moon as Suns fans, So that's what we dealt with tonight. Ryan Cross, shout out to you in the chat. He said, we need a smoke break fast. Let's get this out of our system. Thanks for donating via the super chat. And thank you to everyone who's joining us along live on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Hit that thumbs up button. Give us a thumbs up. No thumbs down just because we lost. That we didn't do it. We're just the guys who have to go live right afterwards when we're feeling all these different kinds of emotions. But if you're listening on the Bright Side of the Sun Podcast Network, please subscribe, rate, and review there as well. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll read it here on the pod. Is anybody going to be drinking with me tonight? There's no chugging with the fellas, unfortunately.
Just water, man.
Yeah. Tonight. Right, well, Suns fans, pop them if you got them. Let's take a quick look at what happened tonight as the Suns lost Game 5 to the Los Angeles Clippers. Let's do it. So, yeah, the news came out probably about an hour before tip-off that there'd be no Ivica Zubac. You'd have an opportunity to dominate the paint, especially after the national narrative was just on the jock of DeAndre Ayton after his last 22-rebound performance. A game in which I said on the pod, he's going to get all those rebounds because nobody could hit a shot. It's kind of like the Devin Booker game 2. After he scored 40 in game 1 and the media was praising him and calling him Kobe Bryant, he had a couple bad games. I wouldn't say DeAndre Ayton had a bad game, but I would say that the execution for the Suns was very poor, knowing that the Clippers were coming out and playing with that 5-out strategy, and it worked for them. It worked for them, my friends.
Look, this is somewhat on Monty. Not somewhat. I think this is on a lot on Monty this evening. Adjustments weren't made. I don't really understand the obsession with Abdel Nader. I think if you go to Torrey Craig earlier, you may have a better opportunity to try to at least frustrate Paul George when he's going as well as he was. I really don't understand a lot of the approach in this game. I'm at a loss when it comes to that. There were a lot of changes I would have made. I still don't understand Dario in certain situations there as well. It was a rough game. They got outplayed, they got out hustled, and they got out coached, I think, and that's why they're going back to LA up 3-2.
I think sometimes you get a little too fancy for your own self. And I think that's kind of where Monty is falling into. Like, I understand you like Abdul Nader. Sure, I get it. But Torrey Craig has given you a lift off the bench as well as Campaign has. And for whatever reason, you kind of ditched you kind of ditched him in the last game because of God knows why. Tonight, he gave you a little bit of a spark like he usually does. And I'm frustrated on so many different levels, just like everybody else is. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, my God, the earth is going to blow up and this is all over. Like they still got 2 more games to win one. Like that, we all knew that was, this could happen. I don't think anybody expected it to happen because we felt like they were going to come home and they hadn't been playing very good on the road, 2 games back to back, especially with Chris Paul and Devin Booker not really shooting well. You thought maybe they're going to come back home and snap out of it tonight. And to a certain extent they did, but man, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, it feels terrible. But Marcus Morris, usually when he starts a game, he can make a couple shots. You think like, okay, get someone on him, like Booker's on him, so there's a mismatch there. But you don't think those fadeaways are really going to take all game. I mean, he did in the first quarter. What did he go 6 for 6 in the first quarter? Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's fine. And then DeMarcus Cousins come in, does his thing. It's like, we'll get past this. And it just never really did. I mean, the unit that came in the first quarter, everyone but Paul George was doing good, really great against the Suns. And then Paul George came in the second half, took over and couldn't miss. It just seemed like that was what the story was.
Well, there was a lot of things going on as well. Like, Devin Booker, I think people are going to look, if you look at the stats only, you think Devin Booker had a really good game, especially points wise. But if you rewind and watch the game, there were several times when Booker would get the rebound, and I'm not trying to say DA should get the ball every single time down the court, but he did have Pat Beverly pinned right behind him, so he could just, if Booker would just lead the pass, it's an easy 2. And he had that about 6 times tonight, and not once did he even try it. That's frustrating. And I was sitting there with Espo for the first half, and I was like, what is going on right here? And I don't understand why every single time, and I know DA is still a little bit raw when it comes to sealing off and getting positioning. And sometimes when he does have a smaller player on him, he doesn't body him like, you would like for him to. It's because they're trying to draw the foul on him as well. And so he's a little cautious of that. He's got a little timidation there. But man, I just felt like, they were, again, they came out and they weren't hitting. They weren't hitting right off the bat. Like, get the ball down low for a second. I don't understand it. It's something that's kind of reared its ugly head in this series specifically because the dudes aren't hitting that usually hit. And so it's like they don't have another plan of attack.
Look, if defense is supposed to be one of the hallmarks of your team, right? You don't let Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, and DeMarcus Cousins combine for 60 points. That's problematic. Mm-hmm. They did not show up on the defensive end this evening, and that is a big reason why they went home with the loss. I mean, you're just not going to win if you're letting those guys go off on you. Paul George had a career night, and tip the hat to him. But if you let him have a career night and you shut down the other guys, it's not going to matter. But when you let fringe guys and Reggie Jackson's more than a fringe guy, all right? But if you let fringe guys like Marcus Morris and DeMarcus Cousins have that kind of success, you're going to have a tough time winning. I don't care if you're playing at home. I don't care if you're up 3-1. I don't care if Devin Booker scores 31. If you do that, that's not a winning recipe, and that's a big part of why they had the L tonight.
I don't understand why Devin Booker was guarding Marcus Morris the entire first quarter in the first place and letting him get into his rhythm.
So let me get to that. Again, this is a game of adjustments. This is a series of adjustments. And that is the exact question I had, not only him, but, the way that then you had DeMarcus Cousins come in and Sarge was right there. And that's something we're going to continue to see as we move into the latter stages of this series is how are you going to let Marcus Morris, the ghost of our past, trying to haunt us? You know, it was a lot of ISO Morris, ISO Cousin left on the block, and they scored 30 of the Clippers' first 59 points. 34-8 points in the paints for the Clippers in the first half, ended with that total that I mentioned of 58-32. You have to make an adjustment. After he goes down, if you go down to Marcus Morris, you know what he's going to do. He did it all night. Back down, turn left, lay up in the lane, or jumper in the lane. You have to do some switch. And I know what the Suns were afraid to do. They were afraid to collapse the double team because Terrence Mann is the guy who's standing in the opposite corner. And that's the shot that he stroked against Utah when he put up his career high 39 points. So I get why they couldn't. They essentially, I guess the mindset was, we'll give up 2 instead of giving up 3. But you let him get into such a rhythm early in the game that, I mean, this game felt over before it began. We were down 10 points at the end of the first quarter, and it could have been more than that. So again, a game of adjustments, a series of adjustments. And when you have that, and yeah, Espo, you hit it. You can't let all of these fringe guys, the guys who, it'd be like Jay Crowder going for 29 points or 25 points or even 20 points. I mean, Jay Crowder tonight had another rough one. He ends with a total of 4 points. He had 3 points in the last game, 9 in game 3, 2 in game 2, 13 in game 1. I mean, we have to have our role players step up and play efficiently if we want to win these games. You look at the point totals for the Clippers in this one, 41, a career high for Paul George in the playoffs, 23 from Reggie Jackson, 22 from Marcus Morris, 15 from Cousins off the bench. You just can't let this happen and try to play catch up the whole time, because we saw it every time we play catch up, and we know this, we watch basketball. Every time you have to fight and claw to play catch up in the regular season, let alone the Western Conference Finals, it takes so much energy to do so that by the time you get there, the other team's ready to take that 9-0 run, the 8-0 run, the 7-0 run. Happened every fucking time tonight.
Yeah, and then the Clips also went in zone. For a large portion of this game, they went in zone, and they basically forced the Suns to beat them from the outside as well. And outside of Devin Booker and Cam Johnson, they sure as hell didn't do that. 2 for 17 for everybody else outside of Cam Johnson and Devin Booker from 3-point range. CP3 0 for 6. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. They're forcing you to beat them from the outside when they don't even have a big inside.
But if they're forcing you to beat them outside and Devin Booker is 4 of 6 from 3, why is he not shooting more of those? I get it. Clippers played good defense at times, but he should be shooting more of those. Cam Johnson should have more than 23 minutes in a night that he's shooting 5 of 6 and 3 of 3 from beyond the arc. He deserves more minutes in there. There are a lot of weird things that happened, minutes wise and offensively. I don't quite understand. Maybe it is simply because the Clippers went to the zone and for some reason the Suns couldn't overcome that. But this looks like a completely different offense than we saw all year. It's a lot of pounding the air out of the ball. It's not quick decisions and crisp passes. Yeah. It's just a very weird change. And maybe that's simply the Clippers muck things up enough in general that's what's going on here. But this is not the team we even saw earlier in this series offensively, and they have to refine that and refine it fast, because you got to take game 6, because game 7, it's cliche, but anything can happen in a game 7, and you don't want to leave it up to that, because the basketball gods, as kind as they've been to us this year, have not been very kind in deciding games in the past. So let's not leave it to that.
You don't want to see Kawhi Leonard coming back either. I don't want to see that tweet where it's like, oh, Kawhi's coming back for game 6. Kawhi might be back for game 7. I just don't want him back, even though I did mention, maybe Paul George and this Clippers team is better without him. I know that was weird, but I just think having him come back, it's going to suck to see that. And Cameron Johnson, he's a guy where I feel like I just trust him the most right now. For some reason, his energy, everything he does on the court, even the little things like tipping the ball away, crowding a guy when he has the ball, has to pick up the dribble. He's doing little things that really help this team actually stay in the game. And he did that a lot this whole series almost. So he's been amazing. And I wanted to ask too, Chris Paul, he seems like is he like a little dizzy or something? I don't know if it's from the coronavirus or what, but he just seems like he's not the same mobility, of course. But like when he's dribbling down the court and when he's walking to the locker room, he just seems like in his eyes, like something is up. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I just want to throw that out there.
I would say CP3 doesn't have the juice right now, if that's what you mean. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel it when I'm watching him play these last couple of games. This is 3 games now in a row. And I just felt like CP just wasn't like as quick and as decisive as he usually is out there. And I don't know what to attribute that to. I really don't. So I'm not even going to speculate whether it's, COVID hangover or something like that. But I will say he doesn't look like himself right now, and he hasn't played like himself in the last 3 games, at least not compared to the Denver series. But then the Denver series was, he had one of his best series of all time. Like, is that a fair comparison? I'm not sure if it is or not. But I will say the backcourt between CP3 and Devin Booker, it needs to be better. It just needs to be better overall. And I think Monty's decision making, you trust these guys all season long, and then you get to the Western Conference Finals, and now you don't want to trust Cam Payne, even though he might have had a rough stretch in the first quarter, and you completely bail and you just go back to Point Book, who throws the ball away 3 times down in a row and forces shots and just doesn't even look at his teammates. Like, bruh, what are you doing? Like, you're completely throwing your own team out of rhythm, Monty. You got to be better than this at this level. You got to trust your players. You got to believe in the system that you have built, because that's what you preach every single day.
Impose your will.
Yeah. I mean, Point Book killed the momentum there. When the crowd got back into it, when the team had cut that lead in the 4th, Point Book killed the momentum. Turnovers, and I don't put that on him. That's on Monty. You should not put him in the position to have to do that. If you're pulling campaign out at that point, you should be putting CP3 back in if that's what you're going to do. Don't go to Point Book in that situation where you could already tell that he was in that mode where if you fed him he could get it, but he was going to press if you had him handling the ball, because it felt like he was at that point where he thought he had to do everything. And Monty's just got to understand that. He's got to understand his team, and I feel like this is one of the first times this year where I don't fully understand what he was trying to do, and I just don't think he pulled the right strings tonight.
Yeah, coming into the series, you knew that the challenge would be for our guards because of the wing depth, because of the defensive capability and irritability of Patrick Beverley. You knew that would be the challenge, is the point of attack for the Phoenix Suns. What made them so successful against the Denver Nuggets was they could run that high screen and roll all day long, because the strength of the Nuggets was their front line. It wasn't their backcourt. And this is a series you knew that you were going to have to take advantage of that, and you're going to have to make some adjustments. I think tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the 5th game of the series, and I think this is the 5th different starting lineup that Ty Lue's jogged out there. He's trying different things. He's pulling different levers, and he's doing something that Greg Popovich always did excellent. And that's whenever the Suns would make a shot. I know he didn't have a choice, but he still had. But he instilled a game plan and pulled the right levers, and then took advantage of the mismatches where the Suns didn't do that. The Suns had mismatches tonight. They didn't take advantage of DeAndre Ayton being the number one. Jay Crowder forced a pass to DA, and guess what? He caught it and he went right up with it. No one else was confident enough in that zone to throw DA the pass and allow the defense to collapse and let him, as a great passing big, try to hit somebody, try to get somebody else going.
For sure. Not only that, but also, like, for as much as we might want to say this is Monty, right? I would say 50% of this is on Monty. The other 50% is on the players. And there's a couple players that, man, we need to put an APB out for my man Mikal Bridges and for Jay Crowder, because those dudes are MIA. I don't know what happened and what's been going on, but
very incompetent.
Like, you got to show up in Game 5. And I'm going to go back to Booker, because some people in the chat are saying, of course, we're not blaming Booker for anything. No, I just did a minute ago. In addition to that, like, I do feel like there's a certain mindset that I think Booker is probably trying to harness when it comes to maybe Kobe or something like that. Like, I'm going to end this team and do it myself. And he doesn't need to do that. He has good players around him for a reason. Trust your other players and set them up for success, because the Clippers were honing in on Devin, and every shot that Devin was taking was basically contested. Like, you got to just trust your teammates.
And again, the moment we went to Point Booker was when Patrick Beverley went to the bench. That is the ideal time to have either Cam Payne or Chris Paul run point and find Booker open for open shots because he's not being pestered the whole time.
Yeah.
But instead, you're putting the ball in his hands, making him the point of emphasis for the offense and drawing the defense to him. And to your point, Saul, he's not looking for his teammates. He's looking to go into Kobe mode. Like, I'm going for 45 tonight, and I'm going to end this series, and everybody's going to talk about how great I am. And, it's Booker ball, Matthew, right? I mean, what something we've talked about for years, some of those early stages of his development when he was the only primary offensive threat on this team is he would go into Booker ball moments where he's like, I'm just going to keep shooting. And game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, when you're finally back in the game within 4 points, and it's go down, put turnover. Now you're down 6. Go down, turnover. Now they hit a 3. Okay, now you're down 9. Go down, miss basket. Okay, now you're down 11. I mean, like that. It was every time we got close, it happened. So yeah, Booker. Everybody's to blame, and I think that yes, my biggest thing to blame is Monty Williams and his lack of adjustments, in-game adjustments. Something that Monty's been very good at this season is, he says the right thing, but he needs to pull those right levers to ensure that he doesn't have Marcus Morris. If you have Marcus Morris backing down Devin Booker, you know what? Maybe throw another bigger guy in there and no more Sarge, no more Nader. Like, it's Torrey Craig or bust, and I'm with Espo on that. It's got to be Torrey Craig or bust. Matthew, do you want Nader to keep getting minutes? And would you go as far to say maybe it's time to give Cam Johnson a start over Jay Crowder? Would you do that going into Game 6, guys?
No, I want to switch it up with Cam. I like Cam Johnson coming off the bench. The way the Suns got here is because of team ball. You can match them up against all these guys that are in the game, or all the rest of the teams that are left in the playoffs, and you can just tell, like, we're the true team. And sometimes when the Suns would get back into the game, they relied too much on individuals, and I think that's what killed them. There was the momentum that was slowed down a lot by Chris Paul. Booker would make mistakes, so I think things like that just threw him out of it. And it was difficult for them to even, take the lead only once. So
Dave King is now joining us from the cafeteria inside Phoenix Suns Arena.
Hey, the effing lounge. Come on, let's get this thing right.
What are your thoughts on this evening, my friend? Thank you for joining us.
Sure. My thoughts on this, I'm sure you guys have said everything I'm thinking about saying, because I just now was listening to the post-game interviews. Monty and Devin Booker both say that they just didn't come in with the right energy. They didn't come in with the right fire. They admit that. They know that. They got to start stronger. What's up, Saul?
That just makes me so mad. Like, it's Game 5 of the Western Conference
with
Finals.
a chance to go to the finals.
To go to the finals. What do you mean you're not ready? Like, I just don't understand that.
Well,
I'm not mad at you, obviously, Dave. I'm not mad
I know.
at you.
It's what you have to say after that happened. So I think what happened is the Suns came in thinking that the Clippers were going to hand them the win, especially when Ivica Zubac was ruled out for the game, and he was such a difference maker the last few games. I really think that's what happens is you get the letdown. I was doing a little interview earlier before the game, and somebody asked me, how do you think tonight's going to go? And I thought it was going to be a blowout for the Suns, and I usually don't think that. I think they thought it was going to be a blowout for the Suns. I think the Suns came in there expecting the Clippers to say, this was a great series. There you go. Enjoy your run. Have a good week off. And the Clippers decided they just didn't want to do that. And Ty Lue made some great adjustments, doubling on, putting a lot more people in the paint to fight Ayton off of the board so they can get the boards, just like the Suns do when they go small. Just like the Suns do even with Ayton out there. They usually have 2 or 3 guys in there for tipping the ball to each other. And the Suns did not react tonight. Suns were not ready. They expected the Clippers to hand them the game. And when you start out in that mode, you stay in that mode. It's hard to get out of it. That's why nobody goes 82-0 in a season or 72-0 this season. That's why these things happen sometimes. Now, how will they respond on Thursday? Man, if the Suns lose on Thursday, then you got this is crazy. And the Clippers have done this. They've done this kind of thing. So the Suns have to get back on their horse and they have to ride it hard. Now, the Suns did win games they weren't supposed to win earlier in this series without Chris Paul. They came out and won both games. In LA, they won that game when they weren't supposed to win that game on Saturday. So tonight they probably thought they just were supposed to get this game, and it wasn't handed to them. And now they got a fine. I guess we got to take it. So we'll see how they respond. They've always responded this season after a loss, always.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with this team. and see what adjustments that Monty makes. You know, I was making the comment a little bit earlier. The way I'm gonna mute Dave real quick because it's getting a little crazy behind him. But what was really, you know, Ty Lue was doing Greg Popovich, man. Every time the Suns were putting a run on this team, he would call a very strategic and well-timed timeout. And it brought me back to the Spurs days. You know, I'm having that PTSD, that post-traumatic Spurs disorder, where I'm frustrated with the fact that he called timeout when we had that run going. And kudos to Ty Lue. You know, he is a quality coach who's making those adjustments. And that, you know, this is part of that learning curve for the Suns, you know, head coaching staff and for their team to recognize, like, yeah, nothing is earned. Or I'm sorry, nothing is given. Everything is earned when it comes to the playoffs, especially Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. You know, I'm frustrated like a lot of other Suns fans. You know, I'm just going to drop this one just real quick.
Ayton Watch 2021.
And I'm only dropping it not because I want to sit here and talk for an hour about Ayton, just because it's almost like a tradition. Like, I would feel wrong not to. But I will say that when you see Pat Bev and Terrence Mann posting up on, you know, getting under Ayton, you got to find ways to get him the ball, man. You got to find ways. And he wasn't as aggressive going for the rebounds. And it feels like whenever he has those smaller players on him, he doesn't want to jump up and get undercut. That's kind of the tentativeness that I saw from him throughout this game. And again, you couple that with the fact that the Clippers were committed to that team rebounding volleyball aspect that we saw the Suns do the same thing against the Los Angeles Lakers. When they were oversized and undermatched, they went to volleyball mode and just disrupted the interior of the paint. The question is, what adjustments will the Suns make going into Game 6? Because we know, looking at this team thus far this series, they have not looked great shooting the ball. And that's one of the things that we've done very, very well this entire season. But when you look at this series in its totality, you know, not even including tonight, and tonight was a better shooting night overall. The Suns shot 45%. I guess that's okay. 34% from three. But if you look at how they've performed thus far this series as a team, you know, they're shooting 45% and 30% from three. We are not shooting the ball at all well. I mean, so many of those first possessions of the game that ultimately dug us a hole that we could, you know, barely get out of was we just, the ball's not going in. It's almost like there's a, you know, aluminum foil on the cylinder or something. Like, we just aren't hitting the shots, open or not. Here's going on.
Here's something that might surprise you. I forgot what Clippers beat writer it was, but he did tweet out about midway through the fourth quarter that the Clippers are actually a plus 35 with DeAndre Ayton on the floor, which is kind of surprising, depending, you know, after you see the impact that he has had on the floor. That was largely because of Zubac, you know, for a large portion of that. But tonight, you can't say that. And he was a minus 22 on the floor. But a large portion of that was because he wasn't really involved on the offensive side. Still had a double-double somehow. I'm
10 and 11.
10 and 11. I mean, as low a double-double as you could possibly get, but he got a double-double. Again, you got to get the guy into the game, okay? Devin Booker and Chris Paul get to touch the ball just about every single time down the court. They get into a rhythm. They get into a flow. You, as a big man, and I think any big man would tell you, like, you got to reward me for some of the stuff that I'm doing down the other end too. You know what I mean? And if you don't, then I start to lose focus. I'm not as into the game as I could be. And you got to reward the guy, and even calling a play for him. I don't care if he turns around and shoots an air ball. That's just signifying, hey, be ready. We're keeping you in the game, and you got to be ready to go. And it's just that little thing that I don't know. This whole thing, I'm just mumbling, but I'm frustrated with their lack of getting the ball. Just I'm not even asking for every single time down the court, or even 20% of the time down the court. Just throw my man a bone every now and then.
Every now and then, man. Allow him to pass out of it. See what happens, right, Espo?
Look,
yes, and channel. Yes, I am ready to blow up, but I'm trying to hold it in.
Look, it keeps sinking down further and further.
Look, they did not play their game. They just did not. They came in and, yeah, they played like a team that thought they were going to come in and get an easy win. And that's not how this team has approached most, if any, games this season. They've come in and they've outworked teams. They did not do that this evening. They're at their best in this series when they're moving fast down the court, not giving the Clippers a chance to set that defense, not giving them a chance to body up on guys. They didn't do that tonight, except for some stretches where they made those runs. In particular, in that fourth quarter, they started moving again. They found guys. They were cutting to the hoop. They were making those kind of moves. They need to do that, and they need to get DA the ball in Game 6. If they ever needed a wake-up call, it was today. You could see it from the word go. And if this isn't enough of a wake-up call, then going home after Game 7 is going to be, because they have to come out and play their game. If we see this kind of effort in Game 6, it's unacceptable on every level. I can fine. It happened in Game 5. It shouldn't have, but it's a learning lesson. If they come out flat in Game 6, that's a major problem.
I mean, we could argue right now that the Suns have only had one good game in this entire series.
Game 1.
Yeah. Yep. Outside of that, Campaign saved the day in Game 2, and so did DA. And every game since then has been trash, honestly.
Bad shooting.
Yeah, not very good, not as crisp as you'd like to see, and what you've come to expect from this team. And so I would be concerned right now if I was Monty and the Suns, like, hey, the sky's not falling. But we haven't played Suns basketball for about 3 games now. We better figure it out quick. Otherwise, it's going to get really, really dangerous.
Yeah, and every possession, too, for DA and the Suns offense it's a mismatch, right? He is basically Shaq right now against the Clippers. He should be, at least. And when I'm seeing DA on the baseline, when Chris Paul has the ball, our Book is coming down with the ball, and it looks like he's kind of hiding. Is that Book or CP3 just trying to tell him, like, hey, we're running something different? What is that? Because it looked like tonight he was kind of running away from the offense, even though he had the mismatches a lot of the time. I mean, it's always a mismatch, but even like when he's trying to get position, his positioning was really, really bad, I thought, in the first half. So I just don't know if that's something that the Suns are running. It's an offense they're trying to run, or it's just DA just not wanting to be the focal point tonight.
I think this is DA the way he's always been. He's never, ever really stepped up for little guys. He doesn't like to step on the little guys. We've talked about this before. He's like the big kid on the playground who doesn't fight the little kids. He had a letdown once Ivica Zubac was out, because of the knee, and DA came in. He just doesn't. He's got to learn to fight against those little guys. He just checks out mentally. I thought he was checked out mentally in the first half. Now defensively, he was put on an island out there on the edge because they were going 5 out. And when he was trying to dive in for rebounds, they had 2 or 3 guys, fighting him for rebounds, and they're tipping it away from him and stuff. So he had a tough time that way. Still had 11 rebounds, but he wasn't an impact player at that point. Offensively, though, the Suns didn't try hard enough to get him the ball, and he didn't try hard enough to get the ball. They didn't do anything on the move. They didn't do any high screen rolls where he was diving full speed into the basket like we've seen in past games. The Clippers were switching everything, and they were going small. And when you're switching everything, suddenly your pick and rolls don't work and your actions don't work. And it doesn't matter if you off-screen guys cross each other, split each other to try to get the defense off. Those guys are standing there. They played a lot of zone too, the Clippers, not only switching everything, but also just standing in a zone. I mean, all that can be disruptive to a Suns offense that relies on motion in this direction. So the Suns are going to have to figure out how to play offense against that. And it's going to be a little different than their usual offense, but it can look a lot closer to what they're used to doing. They're not getting into their set spot.
The important thing here is that DA is being used against the Clippers, right? The Clippers are using DA, they're pulling him out, and then they're going away from him and then attacking, as opposed to the Utah series where they would isolate Gobert and then go out with Gobert. There's a big difference here. So it's keeping DA out of the paint. It's keeping DA away from all the traffic and being the defensive force that he has been for the most part. And that's clever. That's Ty Lue. So if you're Monty Williams, you gotta adjust. You got to figure out a way to change that up to whatever degree and get DA more involved. If that means you got to change up your rotations to a degree, just so that way you're not leaving DA all the way out there on the other side of the ball or away from the action, then you got to do it. But you got to find a way. And on the offensive side, I absolutely agree, Dave. I'm sitting here saying that DA needs to get the ball. He needs to get the ball. He needs to get the ball. But there is also a portion of this where DA has got to step up and say, like, call for the ball or you got to be a little bit more emphatic about being involved on the offensive side of the ball, because it's too easy to ignore you if you're not really clamoring for it for sometimes. And sometimes the squeaky wheel gets to all the grease, right?
Yeah, you got to be more aggressive, and I think that's what we need to see from Monty and the way that he manages DA and the offense, and Chris Paul as well. He's the leader. He's the guy who is impressed with the way that DeAndre Ayton has grown this year, but you got to allow the opportunity to cook. You got to give him the ball. You got to, and you're right, Saul. DA's got to be more aggressive asking for the ball. I felt like the team fed off the energy of the crowd tonight, but didn't put in the effort to execute what was needed. And when they had those runs, man, Ty Lue, Greg Popovich, I won't get off of that point. I really was frustrated with the way that he was calling his timeouts, Matthew.
Yeah, no, and even in the first half, the first quarter, the Suns were down by like 80. It was 82-6, and he finally called a timeout. You just don't think in the first quarter, like Marcus Morris and DeMarcus Cousins, when they start to get going, you don't think it's going to last. And I think that's really what happened with the timeouts, because that timeout that was called in the first quarter should have came a lot sooner to short things up a little bit. There's a little bit too much trust, I think, from Monty.
To me, 17 of 41, 14 of 44, 10 of 40.
Yeah.
At some point, Devin Booker and CP3 have to look at things and go, if we're not hitting shots, how do we set up other guys to perform better? How do we not go miss that many shots and put us in a hole? Because you're not, that's the crux of this right now, is if they're not hitting those mid-range shots early, figure out a way to get other guys involved, adjust the offense, figure it out, because that's just not a game plan that's going to be successful. The only reason that they won game 4 with them shooting like that is because the Clippers were ice cold too. Like that was one of the ugliest basketball games we've witnessed, and the Suns gutted it out. But they could have easily been 0-3 in those 3 games as well with these guys shooting like this. So how do you adjust? If you guys are the leaders, what is your move to figure out a way to either get yourself out of that shooting slump or get your other teammates involved to help you out and help pick you up?
See, guys, the Clippers are doing this on purpose, though. They're getting Devin Booker and Chris Paul into shooting situations. They're taking away their passing lanes. They're taking away their secondary options, so the ball isn't being swung side to side to side for good, easy shots. So they're being baited into taking these shots by the defense that the Clippers are playing. And there may not be an avoidance. I think what they have to do is just start hitting the dang things. Now, they are getting marginally better. So, 10 for 40, 14 for 44, 17 for 41. They're getting closer.
By the time we get to game 9, baby.
Hey,
Freddie Coleman did say Suns in 9, right? So
here we go. No, I also, and I don't know if you guys have talked about the refs at all, because you guys are so disappointed in the Suns' effort, but I did feel like, I'm not a ref hater, but I did feel like there were a few calls that went against the Suns' way that didn't need to go against the Suns' way. But that's just me.
Yeah, maybe. I never felt like they were a huge factor in the game. I feel like for every bad call that they give us, they give it to the Clippers. Like, I don't know. It's just Paul George, that's a different story. I think he pushes off and uses his elbow on just about every damn play. But outside of that, I'm good with the refs.
Yeah, that campaign elbow that was basically Paul Georging Paul George was the one frustrating thing to me. I'm like, Paul George just did that 3 times, on the other end of the court, but campaign, does it, Cam Johnson does it, and it's, that should be a flagrant. How dare he do that? And it's like, okay. Paul George stuck his face in there. What do you want?
Yeah, there's been a lot more.
EJ talked about that the other day. He was talking about how, like, back in the day, stick your face in there if you want to, but I promise you, your nose will be broken. And that just doesn't apply nowadays. So dudes are just throwing their faces up there however they want. That's what Paul George does. If you ever notice, when he comes up on defense, he always leads with his chest first, so he can try and draw contact and get the foul every single time. It's just so shitty.
We
Yeah,
can
but
say that we can
ahead,
say that Booker and Paul need to shoot better, but you know what? It would really be nice if we could actually see Jay Crowder make a few shots and Mikal Bridges make a few more shots. I mean, my God, and Campaign make a few shots. Dario Saric not throwing air balls up there. All that stuff would be nice to see, and maybe those guys would help. And you wouldn't have to have Chris Paul and Devin Booker making all the shots. They've got to force the Clippers to take them seriously. The only guy who played well last 2 games off the bench was Cam Johnson, I think.
Well, I used to say, I'm sorry.
I can't fucking talk.
I'm sorry. You got
I got my little giggle in there.
My bad.
I'm being Matthewed.
Crowder, Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Campaign. I used to say, if you can get 40 out of them, you're in really, really, really good shape. And you should probably win the game by double digits. And not, I don't even know if they've done 40 since game 2, maybe.
Jam star of the game.
From the
I was
control.
trying to cut you off again, John.
I feel like, did you cut
I'm trying
yourself
to cut
off?
him off too, John.
Yeah, and then I got cut off.
Yeah, I have nothing to say
that was
anymore.
me.
Like, my point is, it was
all
like
right.
4 points ago. So now my dog's barking like an asshole.
He's
out
like,
here.
back to Ayton watch, guys.
Yeah, so like I was saying with DeAndre Ayton in minute 12 of the show. Yeah, who do you guys give the jam star of the game to? I'm going to wrap this thing up soon because
I'm
Cameron
going to give it
Cameron
to
Johnson.
John for dealing with all of us interrupting him.
Yeah.
then I give it to Matthew for us always interrupting him for every podcast thus far.
It's purgatory. I love it.
I'll give it to Soul Glow because my hair's looking kind of juicy right now, baby.
Seriously though, it's got to be Cam Johnson. I mean,
Yeah.
he's played unbelievably in this series. He did it again tonight, and deserves more minutes. Deserves some of those Dario minutes. Deserves some of those Jay Crowder minutes at this point. Deserves all those Abdel Nader minutes along with Torrey Craig. So Cam Johnson gets my vote.
I'm gonna say Torrey Craig gets my jam star of the game. He got what 42 seconds of playing time, and he drew a foul. He made some shots. I mean, I have no idea why Abdel Nader is playing in these games. I don't know what Monty sees in that. He hasn't played in 3 months, and you're in the most high leverage games of the entire season, and you put Abdel Nader out there hoping he'll what? What can he do that Torrey Craig can't do? You mess up your rotation, you mess up your energy. He needs to just not have Abdel Nader play in game 6, and hopefully there isn't a game 7.
I'll give it to
what did he even do?
I'll give it to the buried bodies because that's the only reason why Abdel Nader is playing. He must know where they are. So,
But what did he do this season really to earn those minutes? I don't understand. He had maybe I think one really good game, but
He had one.
he just doesn't do
good
too
game.
much. Exactly.
I-
My jam star is Cameron Johnson. Just throw it out there. And you guys, your guys' pod, we're having like the best hair because we're like the no hair pod, and you guys have very fantastic hair.
Yeah, we always wear hats.
Seriously, yeah, you guys just let it flow. I love it.
Well, and it was funny because, for Brightside today, I wrote a piece, welcoming back Abdel Nader, and I was going through and looking at his season. I was just like, yeah, what's he playing in the Western Conference Finals for? Like, he was good as a bridge to get to Torrey Craig because he's like what we wanted him to be, and we got that in Torrey Craig. So why is he back playing? Is it because Monty has an affection for the number 11 and he misses Ricky Rubio? So he's like, hey, this is my homage to Ricky. He couldn't be here. I don't know. And I think that we're done with him. It's got to be Torrey Craig. And when they throw those small ball lineups at us, you can have Torrey Craig run the 5. Don't even put Dario out there. I think that he's athletic enough to body up some of those guys and at least try to, athletically beat them because Dario can't beat them with athleticism. We know that.
Or anything.
So, or anything at all, facial hair even. He just doesn't win. So, it's going to be interesting
Maybe he thinks Nader just will look those guys in the eyes and make them start dreaming. I don't know. He's just such a beautiful man. Maybe he thinks he can.
Well, look,
Monty's to death.
Monty's still wearing the mask. He's got the glasses on. I'm guessing he gets that fogged up look, and he thinks it's Booker, and he tells him to go in the game. That's the only explanation that I can come up with as to why Abdel Nader keeps getting it.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see as we head into Game 6, which is on Wednesday at 6 p.m., what adjustments are made. Because Ty Lue's not going to run the same shit. He's just not going to. He's not going to come out and say, hey, this worked in Game 5, so I'm going to do it in Game 6. Now, there's going to be shades of it throughout the game just like there were shades of going to DeMarcus Cousins on Dario, which we saw in game 1. I mean, the thing is Ty Lue has analyzed how to get points outside of Paul George and then uses those strategically throughout different segments of the game. Whereas the Suns, I feel, partially because they can't hit any of their shots, they don't have any of those strategic go-to plays like we've seen them run in the playoffs because the Clippers take a lot of them away. This is a good team, Suns fans. We said it coming into this. I know when Matthew and I were talking about who we wanted to play in the Western Conference Finals, I wanted the Jazz because their strength is down low, and I feel like we had the advantage there. I didn't want somebody who could take away our passing and our guard play. Guess what? That's what the Clippers do. They're a very, very good team, and we are going to have to earn this trip to the NBA Finals if we want to get there. You want the T-shirt and the hat? You got to earn it.
And that's what this team's done all year. They have earned it. They forgot that tonight. They forgot it takes work. They forgot, I think they got, to steal Monty's phrase again, they got happy on the farm. They did not look at it and go, okay, we need to go out here and take this. People were believing in them. I think they were a little overhyped for this game in terms of, hey, we got this. It's good. It's not good anymore. You're in big trouble if you go to LA and play like that. You're coming home for the slaughter, maybe.
Code JJM. I really think we are losing because so many people picking us to win. We play better as underdogs. No, that's not the reason. I appreciate you and I love you, buddy. You've been a good supporter of both of these podcasts, but that is not the reason.
I agree with him. I think it's because
we have too many people on the bandwagon. We need to push them away.
Push a couple off. Matthew, what do you think? What adjustments need to happen heading into Game 6?
You can let Dave go. Go ahead, Dave.
Time.
I was just going to throw in there. I haven't been here the whole time, so I got to make up for it. I really think, though, the Suns did let it get to their heads a little bit. Coach JJ, there's some other things you say in the chat that I don't always agree with. I'll just leave it there. But in this comment, I do think that, the Suns might have let it get to their heads on thinking they had the series won. And I talked about this a little bit earlier as well. I agree. They thought they were already going to get their flowers handed to them tonight. And the Clippers said, no, thank you. So the Suns are going to have to take it, as you just said, John. The Suns are going to have to take this win, this trip to the finals. No one is giving it to them. And just because you think they should doesn't mean they will. So, I do think they took their foot off the gas.
Chris Paul, I just have one message for you. You've never been to the NBA Finals. This should be the all the motivation you need. Son, this might be the last time you get this close.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah, but is he in his head? Because the post-game interview when Rachel Nichols asks him about 3-1 the other night, he says, I don't want to talk about it. I don't have good history with that number. I'm sorry. You should be saying this isn't like the past. We're going to take care of business, whatever, different time, different place.
Oh, see,
I hope he's not in his head.
He doesn't want to talk about it because she was saying it so positively as if they had it won. He's like, no, I've been here before. You can't think you're going to win.
I thought
he was in the right space.
I didn't. I agree with. I'm on Dave's side on this one.
I don't know. I just wonder, is Chris Paul starting to be like Suns fans, where you saw it on Twitter? This game started going in the wrong direction, and almost every Suns fan that's been here for more than 15 minutes starts to go, uh-oh. Is this when it all goes sideways? Is this, I even jokingly said the basketball gods have entered the chat, right? Like people just start going, oh shit, here it is now. This is it. This is what we've been expecting. And I just hope, Chris Paul's been through so much. He's had so many bad experiences in the playoffs. I hope he doesn't start thinking in that way too. And I'd like to believe he doesn't, but you never know because he has had such bad luck.
I'll take the blame for this one, guys. I mean, we all know what happened before the game and what I put in the chat.
I didn't want to say anything, but I'm definitely putting this one on you.
That's my bad juju. But the good thing is I won't have to do anything for next one, so we're good. That's all out of this one.
I
It's
hope
already
you're
been
right.
put into the universe.
Can that be deleted from the chat? I think we need to delete it, erase it, make a
I
brand
will-
new one if and ever it's needed.
It'll always stay on my phone.
It'll always come. It's haunted now. It'll always come back.
Can we delete Saul from the chat for the remainder of this
Just
series?
remove me.
Instead of
Take me
enter
out
the
of my
chat.
misery.
Saul has left the chat.
Yeah, baby.
Matthew, you got any final thoughts before I cut this show short?
Man, that moment when Chris Paul hit that, I said it earlier, but the go-ahead basket in the third quarter, it was just a moment where I'm like, oh my God, they might win it. It was kind of emotional, I'm not going to lie. And then it just went away completely. But next game, don't treat the basketball so fragile, just don't act like it's like the last card of a house of cards or something, trying to put on top of the deck, whatever you do when you build a house of cards. I've never done that, but I assume you're trying to do it really delicately. Just go out there and own it, because they seem like they were kind of scared of the ball a little bit tonight.
This ain't Jenga, it's basketball.
Just be careful.
I feel like
Don't be careful.
I feel like tonight was the moment that
message.
Lissy officially became a Suns fan.
You guys weren't emotional when he made that shot. I was like, oh my God, like
Bro,
I think they're gonna take over.
There's too many games. There's too much time left.
Too much time. And again, it's
they
like
came
I
right
said.
back down and scored again.
Well, it's like I said. It took so much to get back there. You knew the run was coming, and it was like an 11-0 run for the Clippers, because it was like 62-61, and it was like 74-62, like in a blink of an eye.
I thought that was it.
I hoped. I pet Lainey then. I was like, Lainey, we got, good things are about to happen to my dog.
Yeah.
And she looked at me. She's like, leave me alone. I'm, my little Chewini sitting, kicking it with me on the couch watching the Suns game. But it was just, it's. You can't get happy on the farm, right? Espo says it because Monty says it, and we say it all the time now because it's really how you have to approach day to day, game to game. When people at work are asking me about the Suns, I kind of say that, they're like, oh my God, good luck tonight. And I'm like, I'm not fucking doing anything. Good luck watching the game. Like, I'm not playing. I'm an observer, hoping that the team that I love can pull one out, just get one more win, get us to the finals, and then we can, continue having fun little get-togethers and powwows like we're having right now. But on the other side of that, that this Clippers team is good, so you have to adjust. This is playoff basketball. The advantage that we have is we have 2 games to win 1. That's what we have to look at moving into Wednesday night. 2 games to win 1. And it'd be nice to win 1, because note this, the Suns are 5-2 on the road in the playoffs, and they've closed out the opposition both times on the road. They haven't done it here at home yet. Let's save that one for the NBA Finals when the confetti's falling down and we're raising the Larry O'Brien trophy, okay? But we got to get there. And I will say, when the series began, Matthew, what did I say the series would happen?
I don't remember.
Suns in 6.
Suns in 6, yeah.
Suns in 6 was my original guess. I was hoping I would be wrong. But you know what? Suns in 6. Let's go get it on Wednesday night, gents.
Yeah, don't let the ghosts of the past get in your head. It's one game. They got
Marcus Morris.
They got 2 more shots at it. Yeah. 2 more shots at it.
Basically, what Espo says to himself when he gets on his knees at night to pray. Don't let it get in your head. Don't let it get in your head. Don't let it get in your head.
I didn't know you were going to say pray. So
hey, I'm trying to keep it PG. Unlike
John's mom has entered the chat.
Unlike who up here.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, if you decided to watch us live on YouTube, we thank you. Make sure you go ahead, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little bell button to remind you that we are live. That little notification thing, like Saul's phone over there going off like jingle bells. Maybe it's Espo then.
Yeah.
Espo?
Was it my phone?
Then it's got to be the Android guy. You know what? I didn't think I recognized that text tone. But yeah, make sure that you know that you
stupid ass green chat.
You get the green
chat. So mad.
It's like Abdel Nader getting in the rotation. What the hell is it doing there?
For no reason whatsoever. Why?
I'm just existing. I don't know.
And on that note too, as well, Sons, all you Jamsters out there, if you want to donate in the super chat, You can donate and help get Matthew an iPhone. We should really start like a GoFundMe to get Matthew an iPhone.
Then you have to teach me how to use it.
It's super simple. It's Apple. You look at it and it opens like it's magic.
We can dip
right.
into that swears for kids fund. That's increased exponentially since we've been doing these post game shows.
Since Saul joined Solar Panel.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We didn't have swears for kids until Saul joined the Solar.
Well, it was the moment you guys like were off of Fox Sports in Valley, Arizona. All of a sudden, Saul's like, "Here comes the F-bombs," because the swears for kids started because you guys had a commercial with your faces on it, and it was a family program. But once it wasn't a family program anymore, oh man, there were some tornadoes of F-bombs coming through. Dave would always
never been family friendly.
Dave would always say the word shit. There was 2 words you could always get out of Dave. You'd be watching something, he's like, "I don't want to watch that shit," or he would just drop one of those random, beautiful little. Which is ripped right from your podcast.
I knew you were setting that up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I'm stalling. But again, a reminder: go ahead and follow the show at Suns Jam and at Sun Solar Panel on Twitter. You can follow me at Darth Voida. You can follow Matthew
At Matthew Lissy.
You can follow Espo
At Espo,
and you can follow Saul
at Saul_Bookman.
Just don't follow us home, ladies and gentlemen, because it's depressing. It's me watching Suns game with my little Chiweenie on the couch. So leave me alone.
That's not a euphemism. So.
that's Did you see Dave's tweet during the game where he's just like, the Suns haven't had the juice from the tip? I'm like, juice from the tip? Jesus, man, that's gross. Manscaping. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and drop the music unless anyone else has anything to say.
No,
go home and love your Chiweenie.
Go home and build a fort with your family. There you go.
Go home and build a card house gingerly. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. And again, we are going to see you live after the game on Wednesday.